Welcome into Texans on Tap. I'm Brandon Strange with Charlie Palillo and Josh Jordan. You can follow them on X at Palillo and at Josh Jordan SCS. Before we get going, if you want to show your support for the show, hit like on the video right now. Sub to the channel if you haven't. Click that bell for notifications. Be sure to put your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to listen to the show, we're on all your favorite podcast apps. Charlie, Josh, welcome in. For the past 3 weeks, the Texans have faced their, quote, most important game of the season, and Week 13 will be no different as the 6-5 Texans head to Indy to face the 8-3 Colts, fresh off of Indy's loss on the road to KC and Houston's upset of the Bills on Thursday night. It's a good time to be a Texans fan, or in our case, an outlet that covers them, because their defense is just elite. They've won 3 in a row. They are in the playoff hunt. And just as important as all of that, I think, is C.J. Stroud looks poised to return to action. And make no mistake, he's getting thrown into the fire on the road with a tough division opponent. Indy's defense it's kind of interesting because it's bottom third in yards allowed, but top third in points per game. So very much in the vein of bend but don't break. But they ultimately broke Sunday in KC. They are number 7 in rushing defense, and we know running the ball has been something that Houston has struggled with all season. Charlie, we start with you. How do you like C.J. Stroud's chances of coming back, shaking off the rust, and for Houston's offense to get into a groove against Indy?
Yeah, but this game to me is fascinating, and I don't have a good grip on it on any level. Stroud's return. Will there be a rust factor? Will there be a timing factor? Issue one that cuts in the Texans' favor, the Colts' best defensive lineman's out. Forrest Buckner's on IR. They're thinking now they'll get him back maybe toward the end of the season, but a neck issue. And he's a load who's done some damage against the Texans the past couple of years. They acquired him from the 49ers in a major trade. They have one really good pass rusher in Laiatu Latu, who was the 15th pick in last year's draft, but he was the number 1 defensive player taken. Remember, it was that crazy run on quarterbacks and then linemen and receivers. The first 14 players in the draft were offensive players, and the Colts got Latu. He has half a dozen sacks to lead them, so he'll be a priority 1 in the pass protection game. And as always with NFL stats, more than meets the eye, because there are so few games, they can get more easily skewed. And if you have major personnel changes, 2 games, it's 20% of your season affected 11 games into the season. So the Colts at the deadline with a bold move to give up 2 first-rounders to acquire Sauce Gardner, former All-Pro corner with the Jets. Their other corner, notable acquisition in the offseason, Travarius Ward, well, he just returned last week after having been out with a concussion. So with the absence of Buckner, they're fairly whole defensively. Can the Texans get any sort of run game established? I mean, this isn't the Bills' run defense. It's not total cake. And item 1 in the game plan, if they are sustaining a drive, first time they touch the ball, how about Nico Collins at least matches, if not exceeds his targets from the Bills game in that first drive? You don't shy away from Sauce Gardner. He's Nico Collins. The ball was thrown his direction only 3 times against Buffalo.
Yeah, it's the run game I'm kind of concerned about. Charlie's right. The Bills' run defense terrible, and I know Woody Marks had a good average, but it's not like he ran for 100 yards or anything like that. So running game's still a work in progress. I guess the one thing I do like is D'Amico said the shuffle, it doesn't appear, is going to happen anymore with the offensive line, that Trent Brown is going to stay out at right tackle. Titus Howard's going to be at left guard, which is obviously a huge upgrade from Lincoln Tomlinson. And I understand that Titus, I think he's better at tackle than he is at guard, but compared to what else you had at left guard, and I actually thought Patterson played pretty well, but clearly the Texans weren't super impressed with him. So they're going to keep that same offensive line intact. I think it's the right move. We'll see if they can move some bodies. The great thing, they didn't give up any sacks. So the pass protection was obviously much better, but the run blocking is still not quite where they would like it to be. And I think you're going to need that, because I truly don't know what to expect with CJ Stroud, and I don't know what it's going to look like. And if Nico is going to get kind of blanketed there. Higgins has been coming on the last few weeks, so hopefully he can have that same kind of connection with him that Davis Mills has over the past few weeks. I think that'll be something I'm looking for. And Christian Kirk is finally starting to show you something here. And I just think that hamstring injury, guys, when he started the season, he just never looked right to me. It didn't look like he could run away from anybody. I think maybe he's starting to get healthy and looking more like himself. I think that can make a big difference this Sunday.
It's hard to expect Houston to be better on the ground versus Indy, considering they were up against a really poor run defense on Thursday, and we really didn't see the fruits of that bear out on the field. D'Amico said this week that the Houston's offense was just not good enough in the second half.
He's right.
Do you think we'll see a stylistic difference from a play calling standpoint with the difference of Stroud being in versus Mills?
I do think you have more hope to have a deep downfield passing game, to take more long shots if you're holding up in pass protection to let those routes unfold. Will they try coaching at all conservatively to protect CJ physically? I think once he's cleared. You need to try to play your game. I don't know that there's all that much they can really try to do different structurally. They just have not been able to sustain quality offense, and that was true when CJ Stroud was playing. Right, other than when they beat helpless, injury-depleted Baltimore senseless, right, the first 3 games, it was an ordeal for the Texans to find the end zone. Right, against Tennessee the first time, it's 6-0 game at the half. I like Josh's point. The continuity they now have in the offensive linemen. Another mention of Ed Ingram, who had another very highly scored game, at least via Pro Football Focus. I do think they're now playing their 5 most talented offensive linemen physically. Will that be good enough against upper tier defenses? Well, the Colts are all right. I wouldn't call them an upper tier defense. And can CJ Stroud, I can't believe I'm saying this, emulate Davis Mills in the ball security column? Right, I've mentioned it a couple of times that since the 3rd snap against the Jaguars, 3 games minus 3 plays, Davis Mills, 0 turnovers.
I think for me is take some of the easy stuff. I say this every week. I feel like a broken record. Throw Woody Marks the football. You drafted the best pass-catching running back in the draft, and you don't throw him the ball. Since he had that big performance where he had 4 catches against the 49ers, the games after that, they didn't use him anymore. After that game, he had 0 catches. After that, 2 catches. After that, 1 catch against Tennessee, 1 catch against Buffalo for -5 yards. They got to find a way to use this guy. It doesn't make sense to me. Throw in some screens, let him split him out, wheel routes, get creative. There's a reason you drafted him. He's really good at that. He's a quick option to get the ball out of CJ's hands. If they're going to be worried about Nico and getting guys deep and protecting the deep ball, he's a great check down option. I don't understand why wouldn't you use a strength that should be something easy to dial up every week.
If I were doing an impression of Josh on Texans on Tap from the last 2 seasons, it would include the words "throw to your running back," because I feel like that's something that you have really harped on, that this team just does not seem interested in trying to take a chance at. But like you said, Woody Marks is great. Why not utilize a strength of his? Now, on the other side of the ball, Daniel Jones and the Colts offense, they know they're in for a fight on Sunday. The Texans defense ranks number 1 in yards per game and number 2 in points allowed. Andy did not respond well to Casey's blitz pressure on Sunday. And we know Houston may not even need to bring a blitz to get pressure home on Jones, given the amount of disrupting that Hunter and Anderson Jr. can just do by themselves. What do you expect to see out of the Texans defense to contain Jones through the air and Jonathan Taylor on the ground?
Boy, fun matchup. Colts trending down some offensively, but the number 1 scoring team in the NFL. So strength meets strength. Can they harry Daniel Jones, who was playing in the MVP conversation level the first 2 months? I mean, the Colts have scored at least 20 points in every game. They're averaging 31, but they've scored only 20 in 2 of their last 3 games, both losses. You mentioned to me the whole story. Well, not the whole story, but it's Jonathan Taylor. If the Texans are able to control him, I think Daniel Jones is in for a long day. And the question is then, can you turn him over and really make the plays that swing the game? Taylor has reclaimed from Saquon Barkley, best running back in the league, 5.8 yards per carry. He's durable. He's heavy duty. He's breakaway. And Josh, cover your ears. They throw it to him also. He has 32 receptions at over 8 yards per pop. He's just tremendous. Anderson and Hunter, you take them against anyone they're lined up against. Left side of the Colts offensive line is stout. Quentin Nelson's a perennial all-pro guard. Bernard Raymond scores elite Pro Football Focus at left tackle. The right tackle, veteran Braden Smith, not so much. That would be Will Anderson's more predominant lineup side. Left defensive end going after the right tackle. Both Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter are on just tremendous jacks now. And as you noted, Brandon, the Texans, they don't need to blitz or haven't needed to blitz very much. And only rushing 4 obviously enhances your coverage in the secondary. The Colts' weaponry in the passing game, they don't have a prototypical number 1 wide receiver, but they have an elephant of a tight end. This year's number 1 draft choice, 6'6", 260 out of Penn State, a do-it-all type in Tyler Warren. Hopefully, the Texans are raising enough hell with their pass rush and their interests that Warren needs to do some chipping and helping the max protect, but they'd still get him out in the routes and ask receivers or backs to help. Best tight end the Texans have faced so far this season. George Kittle down a little bit and hurt all the time. He's I think the number 1 matchup. He's too big for safety and corners and too athletic typically for linebackers. But Michael Pittman has 7 touchdown passes, but I mean, he doesn't scare anybody. They do have Alec Pierce, curious, white lightning, not a high volume guy, but in all but one of his games played this season, he's missed 2, 9 of 11. He has 1 reception for at least 25 yards, and in all but 2 of the games, at least 1 reception of 35 yards. So that's been the big playmaker in their passing game. Alec Pierce.
For me, it's kind of surprising, but Daniel Jones, 4th in passing yards in the NFL right now at 2,840. And of course, Jonathan Taylor, number 1 in rushing yards, 1,197. So they got both guys. And the one that scares me just as much is Shane Steichen. I mean, he has done a lot with less over the years, and now he has some guys that are at least competent. Jonathan Taylor's awesome, but Daniel Jones, he's elevated his play. So you have to be impressed what Steichen could do with these guys. You remember what he did with the Eagles, and once he got some good quarterback play, it's a hard offense to stop. And Charlie's right, Tyler Warren, he's killing it now with 662 yards receiving, only 3 touchdowns, but he's catching a lot of balls, and he's a beast. That was a great draft pick. Now, on the Texans side of the ball, here's the good news. We were talking about Danielle Hunter. Where are all the sacks? Well, now he has more than Will Anderson. He's got 11, and Will Anderson's got 10.5, which puts them 3 and 4 overall in the NFL. They're only behind Brian Burns and Myles Garrett, who's just having a historic type season this year. So you're starting to see the pass rush come along. And getting back to Warren, we're still not quite sure if Jalen Petrie is going to play this week, going through the concussion protocol. I think he's going to play. I think this is just, how it is earlier in the week with the concussion protocol. I think him and CJ will go, but it is an unknown at this point in the week. And that could be huge. It would be nice to get Petrie back in there, give you some more flexibility, especially when you got to cover all these guys. They have burners. They have big possession receivers. They do a lot of things really well.
Yeah, it was interesting digging into Warren's numbers because his numbers aren't that different than Nico Collins this season. If you look at it, you talked about Warren only having 3 touchdown patches. Nico only has four catches. So the numbers aren't that different. He's going to be something that they're going to have to account for. Now, the line on this game is interesting. Indy's favored by 4 points at home. The total is 44.5 points, which to me sounds like a lot for a couple of good offenses squaring off, but I kind of see where they're coming from. Before we get to our predictions, if you're watching this, make sure you put your score predictions down in the comments so that you have bragging rights, if you call it. We had a commenter last week called the score dead on, but upon second review, his comment was edited. So I'm not going to give him a full shout out here and name him by name because there's the possibility of shenanigans. I hope that wasn't the case. I hope someone did call it, but we did have 3 people that were in the comments that called it pretty close. So we'll give them credit for that. So all 3 of us were on the wrong side of predictions of Thursday's game, happily. So let's see how we do this week. Charlie, we start with you. Final score prediction, Texans Colts.
Beats the hell out of me. Texans obviously trending up 3 in a row, 6-2 since the 0-3 start. The Colts since 7-1 have dropped 2 out of 3 on the road, though.
Yeah,
they're 6-0 at home, though their stadium's just not one of the louder in the NFL. Peyton Manning taught them all to be quiet when the Colts have the ball. It just doesn't ever sound super loud to me, even when the other team has the ball. But let's chew on this. Even when the Texans were 0-3, which in the end, hey, losing close, I don't care who you're losing to. You lose 3 in a row, you lost 3 in a row. But the Texans have 5 losses. The Rams, the Buccaneers, the Jaguars, the Seahawks, the Broncos. Combined record of those 5 teams, 39-16. Well, the Colts are 8-3. So it's not as if, hey, the Texans aren't playing anyone who's really good. They're going to win a game. Boy. Texans 20, Colts 19.
Wow.
If they were playing this game in Houston, I would pick the Texans. But they are not. They're on the road. So I'm leaning 24-21 Colts. I just think about, like, Gardner Minshew looked pretty decent with Shane Steichen calling the plays and gave the Texans all they wanted in a lot of games. I know they ended up winning that big one, but point being, you need Daniel Jones to turn back into Daniel Jones. Can you get him to do it at home? And with Jonathan Taylor having to deal with him, that's where I get a little worried. I look at the Texans' schedule this year. They don't have a road victory that has any type of significance. The only one is against the Ravens, and half their defense was on the injured list, and Lamar Jackson didn't play. So I'm just in that boat where I certainly won't be surprised if the Texans win. I just don't know what to expect from the offense with CJ coming back. I have no clue. So that's why I'm kind of leaning towards the Colts here, just because they're at home and I don't know what to do with CJ. And we have not seen the Texans defense travel and the whole team travel and beat a good team yet this year. I think I need to see it to believe it.
Boy, I can't echo those sentiments. I'm so curious to see what the offense looks like with CJ back. I think it could go either way. Obviously, Houston's road struggles are well documented, so I think that's what tilts my prediction as well. I think it will be a close game. I'm hoping for drama, hoping Houston's suffocating defense is the difference. But man, winning 4 games in a row in the NFL is incredibly hard. Oh, I'm going to go 27-24 Colts. And I know Houston's defense is elite, so 27 points is a lot, but I feel the story of the game could be offensive opportunities for Indy at the expense of the Texans' defensive stamina down the stretch. I would be thrilled to be wrong the same way that I was on Thursday. Don't forget to join us after the game on Sunday, where you can react with us live here on YouTube. We had a great crowd in the chat on Thursday night. Hopefully it's another lively show celebrating Houston's 4th straight win, or we can gripe and moan about what could have been. But in either case, it's always better with friends. So one last reminder, if you hit like on the show, if you haven't already, subscribe and click that bell for notifications so you're notified when we go live. Hopefully, sometimes the notifications work. And then if you're listening on podcast, give us a 5-star rating while you're here. It's a simple thing, but it helps us a lot. For Charlie and Josh, I'm Brendan saying so long. See you Sunday. Go Texans.